one of the things that I do when I am looking to try and see how an election is going, and I've said this again a million times, is to look at the other side of the table. What is going on the other side of the table? How are they playing it? So if you look at the two campaigns right now, you're seeing extremely different campaigns. So the Trump campaign is in real trouble. It is very short of money. They have, if you remember when Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, took over the Republican National Committee along with Michael Whatley, is a Trump loyalist. The first thing they did was to cut the ground game. They stopped funding the door knocking, the phone calls, and all the things that would get out the vote. And instead, they used that money for legal fees, especially Trump's legal fees, but also the idea of challenging the election going forward. And they also decided that they would turn over the get out the vote system to private enterprises. And they started with a Turning Point. There we go. Turning Point USA with Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry. My brain is just on overload. So they started with that. And Charlie Kirk had never done that kind of an operation. And he maintained that he could do it really efficiently in 4 major swing states. And who knew, right? Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. He did not have any experience in getting out the vote. And what happened was he gradually pulled back until now he's doing a little bit of work in Arizona, which is where he is from and where he is centered. But Elon Musk has taken over the get out the vote system, as you know, funding it himself and doing it through things like that lottery and through trying to pay people or paying people to put their names on lists and so on. Which may or may not be legal. I'm not an election lawyer, and certainly people are looking into whether or not that's legal. But what does it say to you when a campaign has to switch its get out the vote system 3 weeks before an election? I mean, that does not say we're doing a bang up job here, right? So they've got that going on. They're short on money, and what about Trump? So Trump is, people keep asking me about the October surprise, and I keep saying we've had it. The October surprise is that we have never had a president or a presidential candidate who is unable to even campaign, let alone a major campaign. There was a minor character in the 1890s who had a stroke during the campaign, but there's a reason you've never heard of him. And then there was one in 1872 who was kind of loopy while he was running. He was actually kind of loopy his whole life, but he lost in such an overpowering wave that nobody's ever heard of him either. But this is a major party candidate who falls asleep at his own events, cannot answer a question, cannot put a sentence together, is lying, just completely lying, and seems to have lost the guardrails for what is appropriate to say, which is a real hallmark of dementia, as I understand it. Again, I'm trying to be careful here I'm not a doctor either, but I certainly have seen this in my elderly friends and relatives. And they're having to keep pulling him out of events because he is performing so terribly in them. And that leaves him with J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance is crazy unpopular. So if you look at these pieces, you look at a campaign that doesn't look like it's going terribly well. On the other hand, you have the Harris-Walz campaign, which to me looks like it has been essentially flawless. And this kind of surprises me because when the Harris people first took over from the Biden people, there was a nimbleness to their responses. And this won't surprise you if you follow me. You know I'm pretty cautious, and I am always about doing all the work. Like I don't write anything unless I can back it up 16 ways from Sunday. That's just kind of who I am. And they suddenly became incredibly quick and nimble and answering things. And I kept thinking, oh, you're going to make a mistake. But what I figured out through the help of one of the people on their team, we sat down in Chicago together and I asked about it. I said, aren't you worried about screwing up? And he said, there is an ephemeral nature to what we are doing on TikTok and Instagram and all the different sort of, I would call flash in the pan places. And if you want me to explain where we get that expression, I will, because it's cool. But the things that just flare up and then die out. Their immediate responses, and the campaign really said to them, be responsible, but go out and do this, because even if you screw up, it's better to have that constant engagement than to be, not that they use my name, but than to be like Richardson, who's going to take 3 days, write it all out, figure it all out, and then post it, because by then the moment is past. And what that has done, I think, has created really the first modern campaign in American history. In this era, there were modern campaigns in the past that took advantage of new technologies as well. But what that means is, as you know, she has not spent a lot of time with the legacy media, although she has appeared in places like CNN and 60 Minutes and, the sort of the big places. She's gone where people are. And she has ceased to prioritize older white men. And of course, that's